in the wrong direction. This is the earliest picture I've been able to find. I have a whole pile of sketches that Arto made over the years, mostly on sort of cheap tracing paper, as trying to get together an idea of what Sam's workshop would look like. And this is the earliest one I recall finding, and yet, if you notice, when you ride in the park and look around, you'll see that it isn't too awful different from what's really there. Of course, there's no detail there. It doesn't tell you what the buildings are there for, or what's going on, or anything else. But it is the initial concept, and I love to see it. I really enjoy seeing it. You notice it also included the fact that you see that. As we went along, Arto began to evolve more style, shape, forms these buildings. At that time, they were hadn't really so pronounced that they were log buildings. I guess you could suggest he was thinking that way. The steep roofs obviously was there. He had made a great number of sketches of what the chapel would look like. And that building seemed to intrigue Arto a great deal, and he spent a lot of time on those sketches. And here is another sketch from a collection of the early sketches. You got to see his notes on the side. If you can see him, he says this was going to have a red roof and so on. This was supposed to become Santa's house. And you'll see that the building out there now is not used as Santa's house anymore. We had to find a bigger building because it was too small to handle numbers of people.
Excuse me, what year was this?
Okay, I should have clarified that. I'm glad you asked me questions because, as I told you, I have some notes over here. As you notice, I haven't looked at it. I'm sort of just talking as to what the picture tells me. But the construction started in June of 1948. June of 1948. It opened to the public on July 1st, 1949. So that's the time period. Here again, you'll see some of Arto's thoughts about what benches could look like. This is a rare one in that it's got a dimension. Not many of these drawings of Arto has any actual sizes on it, so it was really just the concepts that he was bringing forth. This building obviously was supposed to be some kind of a restaurant or food service building or something. I don't think it ever got built, but it is interesting to see how this thinking develops. Again, here is detailed sketches of what interiors might be, things going on. One of the things that is very interesting about how this park was put together, there was never a site plan. There was never even a floor plan of any of the buildings initially. There was never a business plan. There was no environmental review. There was nobody, when they built the buildings, they didn't even make a provision for where they're going to have such things as water and sewage and storm drainage and electric circuits and all that stuff. That was sort of added as you went along. And so it was not really, in today's world, you have never gotten started. That's for sure. There again, we're back at the chapel. You can see now the chapel is beginning to, if you go out, and we will go out, you'll begin to see how the final chapel begins to look more and more like the sketches that are made early in time. Again, one of the things when the workmen were going around the building, that was Harold Fortune's crew, of course they had no blueprints to build by. There's a story I do tell that when they first decided on this site, of course this was all an undeveloped area, the Memorial Highway went here, so they parked their cars and climbed over the guardrail, and they walked into this area, and the little brook went through, and sort of a little woodland knoll or dell, I guess you call it. And he said, said, well, this is where we're going to build it. There goes the brook down here, so we put a little dam, a pond over that way. Well, the next thing he said, well, the center of the village has to be the North Pole. So where are we going to put that? So we put it in the North Pole. Then they stood back and said, now where are we going to build the buildings? First, where's Santa's house? Well, we'll put it over there. Okay, that's a good place. So we'll stake in the ground, Santa's house. How big should it be? Well, let's see. That seems about right. Put a stake there. And so, as strange as it seems, that's really how it all came together. They started building the logs, building up, and they would come to such things as, well, how would I treat this window? Well, I would sit down and make a little sketch on tracing, make it look like that. And that's how it all came together. It was all in Arto's mind. He knew what the finished product would look like. And he was very capable of giving the workmen enough information to be able to carry it out. Here's a little sketch he had as an idea of what the inside of Santa's house would look like. It doesn't really look that way today, but anyway, it gives you some of the feel, sense of the feel that Arto had over this. As I said, Arto was a very unique and special person. I don't know how many of you actually know Arto or know of him, but those of you who would like to know more about him, there is a very good CD available through our public station up there, broadcasting station, that they put together on Arto, and it's really, they did a wonderful job on it. And if you're interested in learning more about Arto, I would suggest that's one place you can go. As I said, he had this tremendous ability to be able to visualize things in a way that a child would look at it and say, yes, that's the way it is, even though it was a fantasy. So he's often been given quoted for saying that favorite expression of his was that there should be a castle in every child's life. And he was noted for building this very many type castles. Here, we don't have a castle. We have more of a monument that he built. And he built it as for the children, as a way that they could envision their fantasies and their wishes and so forth, but also so that their parents could enjoy the very same fantasy that they had when they were children. And so that's one of the reasons why I think it has been quite successful, is that everybody that goes out in the park says, oh, I remember that. That's the way it would be, wouldn't it? So he really captured that spirit. And okay, here's another interior picture of what could be happening in Santa's house. And there's his desk over there, getting his notes. Again, he's giving us some more sketches of how things would look. There's no blueprints, just these sketches. That's what you want. Here, he's giving us an idea of the entrance. Santa's workshop, Whiteface Mountain, New York. If you look out there, our entranceway gateway, we had a couple mishaps with it over the years. The first person who knocked it down was a man from Plattsburgh. His family had a floor covering business called Woods Flooring, Woods Brothers Flooring, I think it was. And Ron Woods was one of the members of the family. And he was down here with their big van on it. It was carpet, small and so forth. And as soon as he was done, he drove his high van through this little arch. And of course, the top of the arch is now on top of the van truck. Interestingly enough, some 30 years later, 35 years later, Ron Woods, having retired and everything else, was filling the role of Santa Claus here in the park. So I guess Santa forgave him. Since then, we've had one of these great big window ones, and he's ignoring the height of the sign. He's got this great big air conditioner sitting on top of him, and he did a nice job on it. And that's why you see we haven't quite been putting it back together